So we're going to do quick, intros, as much information about yourself as you want. A quick overview of your character, who she is, what's going on with, what her deal is, before we get going, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
Hello, my name is Micah Hind. I am a professional storyteller and historical interpreter from Scotland, in the United Kingdom, but currently residing in Newcastle in the United Kingdom. And I am going to be playing a cantankerous, middle-aged, mutant scientist, Dr. Heather Scott. Yeah, that's basically it. She was turned into a possum, and she's a bit salty about it, and now she lives in the sewers trying to do research in unsanitary conditions, which isn't easy.
Yes. Science in less than sterile environment. I'm sure
It's a nightmare.
say. Alright. So welcome everybody to another story set in the Vigilantes Union Local 13 setting. I'm Ben Ravensdale and I will be the Game Master for today, introducing the fifth and final member of the Local 13 group of heroes. Alright, so we're going to start off in a setting that's very familiar to Dr. Scott, which is the tunnels underneath Portland, which are fairly extensive from my understanding. Okay. Describe to me Dr. Scott's accommodations. Does she use the same place for the most part, or does she constantly have to move around for different reasons?
I think she probably uses more or less the same sort of place. It's probably near. I imagine it might be actually quite near the zoo, the Portland Zoo. The tunnels goes all the way to the Portland Zoo, and I imagine she pops in there occasionally to their various labs to pick up extra supplies occasionally.
Okay. And you said in your background that Dr. Scott specifically provides medical services to both sides of the heroic fence.
Yeah, she's a back alley doctor.
Okay.
Essentially.
I love that. And because you operate kind of around the zoo, and you yourself are sort of a human-animal hybrid.
Don't sugarcoat it, sweetie. I'm part possum.
Part possum, exactly. You have had some interaction with a group of individuals, whether they're heroes or anti-heroes or whatever the case may be is a matter of some debate, although most view them as sort of on the villainous side of things. But collectively they call themselves the Menagerie, and specifically it's made up of 4 individuals who are also kind of human-animal amalgamations or hybrids. There's one named Eel, who has the ability to zap people and kind of has elongation powers. There's Cardinal, she can fly, she's got feathered wings. There's Oxen, who is a really big, strong dude with horns. And then there's Coyote, who is a fairly cunning, tricky, bloodthirsty, thief type. By the by, I think it's important to note that the singular character named Oxen chose that name for himself, despite the fact that it's a pluralization, because he is not necessarily the brightest bulb in on the branch. So that is on purpose, in case anybody has questions about that. But yeah, so that is the little group of misfits that Dr. Scott regularly interacts with. And on this particular fateful day, Dr. Scott is in her lab. What does Dr. Scott do during her off time when she's not stitching people up?
I think she mostly works on her genetic research, working on improving her genetic amalgamator technology.
Okay.
It's the last bit of important technology she worked on before her little accident. And she likes to call it was just a little accident. And she's probably currently working doing research. She might have tasked as part payment for her little friends, the menagerie, I say use the term friends loosely, to acquire samples if they can of genetic material from supers of various sorts, individuals, as she single-mindedly pursues her own research. She probably has a lot of trouble because there's a bunch of possums that she uses for various tasks here and there. Full possums, and they've all got names. There's like Petey, Einstein, Revere. I don't know. There's probably some others as well, but like she's probably constantly shooing them off her surfaces and stuff.
Okay. Spangler, Venkman.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I have it in my head that a frequent request that Dr. Scott has for her possum posse is go get me a snack. And they come back with all manner of questionable things. But okay. So yeah, so on this particular day, you are working. I imagine that Dr. Scott has this quote-unquote lab of fairly rough scientific equipment, like probably like a centrifuge that is several models old. It probably clanks a lot when it's spinning. Things like that. It's probably like microscopes that are. They probably don't like zoom in very well, so you've got like 3 or 4 of them set at different levels of magnification because you can't adjust them because they've been like they're all damaged and thrown out from the local university, etc.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that she's basically dragged out either herself or with her minions, her possibly minions from various trash cans behind universities, high schools, anywhere else, really.
Okay, so a lot of salvage stuff. I like it. So yeah, you're taking some notes, checking out some samples and things like that, when there is a bit of a commotion outside your lab, and you very quickly have visitors. Specifically, Eel and Cardinal are kind of like burst into the room with Eel is sort of lugging oxen like over his shoulders, like firemen's carrying oxen over his shoulders. Oxen is bleeding profusely from a number of wounds, and Oxen is a very big, very tough individual. I would say, yeah, like it takes a lot to hurt him.
Hey, don't drag blood all over my lab. God. Come on, just clear that table over there and put him on there.
Eel, like, kind of, with Oxen over his shoulder, like, kind of sweeps one arm, which kind of flails out, like, across the room and just, like, sweeps everything off the table. And Eel's a fairly cool, calm, and collected individual. He is clearly panicked. And he rushes over and kind of, like, hauls Oxen onto the table, kind of lays him out flat. And Cardinal kind of is she goes and checks the door and kind of like looks outside and then closes it really, like, I would say firmly, that's maybe being a bit too gracious. She like slams the door closed, and she kind of turns to you, like your eyes are a little bit wide, and she says, I don't know what the hell that thing was, but it almost killed him. And she kind of like, she points at Oxen.
Oh, jeez, he's a real mess. Eel, can you kind of pull him down, wrap yourself around him or something?
Yeah,
I don't want him moving while I look in.
He does exactly. Like, he kind of wraps one arm around Oxen's wrist and other arm around his wrist. He kind of like climbs underneath the table, so he's like, laying down on the floor and like feet braced against the bottom of the table, and he's like holding him down as best he can. And he's pretty badly wounded. Let's go ahead and start off with you drawing some cards. You've got a hand size of 4, so go ahead and draw 4 cards, and you can just set them out on the table, like right here underneath the Vigilantes Union logo.
Okay.
So everybody can see them.
Cards, I think.
Wow, those are not bad. If you don't mind, I'm just going to place them right down here.
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead and give me an intellect action using medicine.
Okay.
And so intellect is blue, of course. So if you play a blue card, then you get a boost, which means you get to draw the top card of the deck and add that on as well.
Yeah. Any blue card?
Any blue card. It doesn't have to be a blue card in order to do an intellect action. It's just if you play a blue card, you get more out of it.
Okay, I'm going to play the 6.
Okay.
I need that 7 for something important.
Oh, Doom cards. I like Doom cards. Okay, so that means I'm going to draw a card over on my end. I'm going to set that aside for me to play against you later. I mean, for it to come up later. But that's a pretty good start. I mean, that's a total of an 11, plus your intellect of 9 gives you a total of a 20 with the medicine skill. So, yeah, you can go ahead and draw your card back to replace that you just played, and it takes a few minutes of going through and like binding wounds and assessing whether or not there's any worse damage and things like that. And like you end up having to put him in a neck brace, and like his you end up having to put a brace like on his left forearm. A number of like really deep, like very jagged lacerations, and what looks to be a bite pattern on his shoulder from some very sharp teeth. If you want to give me an intellect action using like biology, that would be good.
Okay. Just draw.
Okay. So 7 plus 9 is a 16. You don't have the biology skill, but that's okay because a 16 is still pretty good. And so that 5 will go back into your hand to replace the 7, and there we go. Okay. So you are, as you're going through and you're treating his wounds and things like that, the bite pattern looks like that of a wolf, but it'd be a damn big wolf. But it's got very like kind of canine snout and jaw elements to it.
Yeah.
And Cardinal and Eel's focused on just holding him down, because Oxen, I mean, you don't necessarily have access to a lot of like pain meds and things like that. So Oxen is kind of like starts thrashing around and things like that, and Eel is holding him down. Every once in a while, he's like, "Hey Doc, just step back for a second," and he kind of zaps Oxen a little bit to kind of sort of like a taser type of effect. It is not what I would call pretty, and a professional medical review board would probably have your license for all this, but you don't have to worry about those things. So,
I know Eel at least mostly has his crew's best interests in fine, so I won't be too bothered by it.
It's true, yeah. He's not doing this by any stretch of the imagination out of, like, oh, I don't care about this guy. It's just he knows how strong Oxen is, and Oxen has a tendency to lose his temper when he does get upset. Like, he gets really upset, and he can cause a lot of damage. So Eel tends to default to, yeah, I know this is going to sting a little bit, big guy, but ultimately it's going to be for the best. Cardinal is kind of like standing against, like, the makeshift table or counter that you have against the far end of the room. She's kind of like watching everything, but she's staying out of the way and not getting like, she doesn't want to get too close or get trip you up or anything like that. So she's waiting until you're done before she gets any closer.
Okay, what have you kids been getting up to now? Is this Coyote's work? He finally turned on you?
Cardinal says, no, it wasn't Coyote. We don't even know where he is.
That boy's no good, you know?
She looks a little bit guilty for half a second as she kind of like nods to agree with you, and kind of catches herself, and then she's like, that's not important. That's not the point right now. We don't know who this or what this guy was. We heard that there was some sort of someone kind of like us prowling around, on the.
Tell me you at least got a sample.
Says he was supposedly prowling around Forest Park, so we went to check it out, and he ambushed us. And as you ask about the sample, she kind of like overlooks that question. She kind of just like skims right past it. But you find in one of the wounds, you find a tooth.
Do the job just nice. I'm gonna grind it up in a mortar and pestle, and I'm gonna put it with some solution in a centrifuge, and I'm gonna do all my science jizzlies on that while Oxen recovers.
Okay. While you're doing that, like, Cardinal and Eel are like hanging out with Oxen, kind of like, talking to him, reassuring. Like, he's settled down and is basically just unconscious at this point. Cardinal and Eel are kind of like comforting each other, like, while they're also kind of like comforting this unconscious Oxen. Cardinal and Eel have a very interesting relationship. Most people would assume that they're like romantically involved, but they're actually not. They both are. They've got much more akin to like a best friends situation going on. Lots of like very close, very kind of like from the outside looking in, like very intimate contact, but it's not romantic in any capacity. It's just like mutual kind of like reassurance and things like that. And so there's kind of, it's kind of a weird dynamic, especially from this group of quote unquote animalistic villains, as the media tends to portray them. They're much more sort of like, communal, like, caregivers in a way. But they don't interrupt your work. So give me I guess it would be intellect using genetics.
Okay.
Which is playing right into your talents, but that's not a bad thing necessarily.
I think I'm gonna go all out on this one, so as much information as possible. So
Okay.
It's card. Does that mean I get another one on top of it?
Yep, because it's the correct suit, you get a boost. So, and it's another intellect card, which means you get another boost. So you get to draw the next card and add that as well.
Power, so that's where it stops, right?
Correct. So that is 11, 16, and 9 is 25. Okay. Go ahead and take the top card of the deck to replace the card you just played, while I give you a little bit of information. So, this sample, the genetic material that you have, is very elusive. It has elements of canine or lupine DNA, as well as some elements of human DNA, but they don't match up with your experience studying like genomes, DNA sequences, things like that. There's something wrong with it. And it's nothing you've ever seen before.
Does it give me any idea of the sort of capabilities of whatever this creature was?
So
I need to take a bit more time to work that out.
You would definitely come across like a lot of the genetic chromosomes and stuff like that. You're gonna have to excuse me while I come up with some vague sciencey sounding words because I'm not a geneticist. But a lot of like the chromosomal pairings and things like that indicate that whatever this is would be incredibly strong, and that it would probably be very resilient as well. That's about all you're able to you're able to pull from it. Yeah, that is the extent of the information you're able to pick up, and you only were able to get that much information because you got an exceptionally high result. Like this sample is incredibly elusive.
Something very weird about this. Where did you say you were again? You telling me everything?
Eel, they kind of exchange a look as if they're like, are we leaving anything out? Like, did we forget something? And then Eel says, no, Forest Park, again, we were told that there was some animal man, some beast man or something like that out there kind of prowling around, and we thought maybe he was looking for someone to, keep an eye on him, the way we do.
Yeah. Real Samaritan-like. Okay, well, this is really strange DNA. So,
Strange how?
It's, seems to be almost... Would it be fair to say it's like always changing, or it's like...
I think that's a good way of describing it. It's elusive. As if it's intentionally trying to keep you from fully understanding what it is.
Yeah. Real elusive-like. I don't know what's going on with it, but... seems like you're in the big leagues now. You want to back off from this one. You know what's good for you.
Eel says, it's like, I mean, you're probably right, Doc, but let's be honest, if this thing's running around out there, all it's going to do is cast us in a bad light. I mean,
yeah.
you assumed it was Coyote, you didn't even know anything about the situation. Anybody else is going to assume it's him too.
Yes, that's true. Okay, well, I'm gonna need to have a think. I need to knuckle down on this one and see if I can come up with something that maybe we can do about this. You alright to hang here for a while? You got someplace to be?
Cardinal says, I'll wait here with Oxen. Eel's gonna go and try to find a gurney or something we can use to try to get him home.
Okay. Oh, and Eel? You see Coyote, leave him out of this.
Kind of gives you a bit of an odd look, but then says, yeah, you got it, Doc. Whatever you say. And he's gonna leave.
Okay. I guess I'm going to get down to the business of my research, and now I'm going to go through all the books that I've managed to purloin. I'm going to check the internet with my dodgy piggybacked connection from whatever's above me.
I'm assuming it's probably like a coffee shop or something. It's got like a free Wi-Fi or open Wi-Fi network.
And I'm going to maybe look for any sort of news reports from in or around the Forest Park area.
Okay.
And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna check in with Cardinal as well. I'm like, "You doing okay, sweetie?"
She says, "Yeah, honestly, I wish people would just leave us alone. I'm just so tired of all of this all the time."
Yeah, well,
But
you don't exactly make it easy for yourselves. But yeah,
it's not
people
exactly
like
like we can go get a normal job, pay rent, that kind of thing. So
tell me about it, honey.
at least you've got qualifications. I mean, you could work remotely; nobody would have any idea.
Well, technically, but also everyone thinks I'm dead. So,
There is that.
bit of a catch-22 situation. No?
Well, here, maybe we applied with the job under my name and social security number, but you do the work.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That might work.
You don't got a degree in medicine, biochemistry, and PhDs in genetics and superphysiology, do you?
No, that's true. The qualifications wouldn't exactly line up, so. Oh well.
What did you do before all this? Were you born like that? I can't remember, sweetie. We talked about this before.
She says, I was born with the wings.
Yeah, so you
Technically I have a degree in aeronautics, but it's from sort of a correspondence school, so I don't know how much water it holds.
Of course, I bet they make all the jokes if you try and get a job with that, with your little condition.
I've heard a few, yeah, but
Yeah.
Who cares? I love to fly, and that's what matters, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I got some contacts. Maybe I could sort something out for you. Maybe a little low-key job, something. But they don't treat you like shit.
Actually, I was approached by some of the guys at Blockade Securities. They said that they were looking for an expert on personal flight, some new armor suit that they're working on or something like that. But
Yeah?
I don't know. They seem really heavy-handed. I haven't gotten back to them. So
I know you like your freedom. Me too, I get it. But, do I know anything about Blockade Securities?
yeah, Blockade Securities is actually a fairly big name, especially amongst like the kind of the super-powered community. So in the various cities where unions tend to form, there's vigilantes to protect against whatever superpowered threats there are and things like that. In other places that don't necessarily have a union, because they don't have the saturation of heroes or whatever, but that still have to deal with the occasional, supervillain and whatnot. Blockade Securities is a private security company that specializes in dealing with powered individuals. They're very much a for-profit private company that essentially think any like professional mercenary company in real life, but with advanced technologies and to an extent sort of a free ticket to employ heavier force against superpowered individuals because they tend to be really difficult to kill. And so as a result, their first response is escalate, in order to try to deal with the threat. There are a lot of opinions about them, whether they're, like Cardinal said, too heavy-handed, or whether or not they are a necessary evil. They do tend to lobby to block votes on forming a union in places where they've got a headquarters or where they've got a business interest. So there's some question as to whether or not they're profit-minded or safety, like public safety-minded, like which of those comes first. So
They're not a subsidiary of TechMat, are they?
no, they are very explicitly not a subsidiary. However, in the news recently, there was a fairly high-profile case where one of TechMat's labs was broken into by someone with powers, and Blockade Securities was called in to consult on their security measures. And there's a lot of speculation that TechMat basically contracted Blockade Securities for additional security at their facilities. There's a spike in Blockade Securities stock prices and stuff like that. It's a whole thing. So,
Well, they're a company. I can't tell you what to do. You're right, they're pretty rough, but maybe it's a chance for you to get out of this game and maybe make a little money for your friends as well, help them out. I don't know. Just, you gotta be careful, okay? These people don't mess around.
yeah, I know.
Would it be just a consultancy position, or are they wanting you to go in a sort of field capacity?
No, they said it would be a consulting expert position, but
No, that might not be so bad.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've got a lot to think about.
Sure.
So during your search for like sightings or whatever the case may be, there are a couple of reports that are kind of related to the whole thing, and one of them is about some livestock that was found that had been attacked and eaten, kind of in the general vicinity, as well as some findings of like deer and other wildlife that just was. There really aren't a lot of predators, like natural predators, in this part of the country that would, be capable of hunting these kinds of large game animals or livestock animals down. And so it's definitely kind of thing where like animal control's kind of been put on alert, and the general police, like police departments across the county have kind of been told like, hey, just if you get reports of stuff like this, there does seem to be something going on, so just keep an eye out. So yeah.
I think what I really need is to get some more samples, but I don't want you putting yourselves at risk. This looks like it's pretty serious. How did it look to you? Can you describe the creature at all?
I mean, he hit us pretty fast. It was big, not as big as oxen, but I mean bigger than your average linebacker, if that means anything. Shaggy, like fur. In the moment before things got really serious, I kind of thought it looked like a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, a Yeti, I guess, whatever they're called. I don't know. Yeah, just big, hairy, like really hairy, and just kind of that like weird posture and long, kind of really long arms. I didn't notice the claws and the teeth until after Oxen started bleeding. So.
A real creature feature, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I know of any Sasquatch in the region, like for realsies, or?
You know what? I'm going to say that is something that you, with your interest in like genetic samples and like and things like that, you probably keep an eye on like cryptid sightings and whatnot. So far as you know, on the various message boards and communities and stuff like that you're a part of, the Sasquatch Bigfoot thing it's unlikely. There's no definitive evidence that this kind of creature exists at this point. I mean, whether or not that is ultimately true, who knows? But there's never been any kind of verifiable evidence that something like that is around.
Scott just kind of chuckles to herself and goes, my mom, she used to go out on a lot of expeditions. She was an ecologist, and yeah. She used to have such scorn for people that talked about Bigfoot like they'd seen it or something. Honestly, there's some weird stuff out there. But Bigfoot, it doesn't exist. Unless someone's tried to make a Bigfoot. That's a possibility.
Cardinal kind of like pauses and she says, "Is that possible? Like that's something that you could do?"
I mean, look at me, sugar. I'm part Possum. Seriously, there ain't nothing you can't do with a little bit of genetic jiggery-pokery.
The phrase jiggery-pokery seems to kind of unsettle her a little bit, and she kind of just nods and goes back to fussing over oxen as if she's like, I don't think I want to continue that conversation right now. But yeah. So there have been some sightings around Forest Park, like I said, kind of backing up what Eel and Cardinal had told you previously. A little ways into you kind of doing your digging around and whatnot, Eel comes back with it's actually not, it's not a gurney, it's one of those steel morgue tables that's on casters.
Okay.
And he's like, this is the best thing I could find that I think will hold his weight. And Cardinal doesn't seem to appreciate the morgue association, but she doesn't argue with it. And the two of them kind of get oxen over onto the table, and she covers him up with a blanket from around. I assume that you hang out with a bunch of raccoons. They've probably dragged blankets back in here and made nests out of them. So, yeah.
I'll give the thing down before we put oxen on it, so it's sort of courtesy, but otherwise she'll be, geez, Eel, did you just pull this out of a morgue or something?
Technically the alleyway behind a morgue, but yes.
Well, they ought to look after their stuff better.
I agree. He says, "All right, Doc. Well, we're gonna get him back home. We'll be in touch. If you have any questions, you know where to find us."
Okay, you lay low for now and stay good, kids. Right?
He kind of, he does this weird thing where he his arm stretches out a little bit, and he gives this really exaggerated kind of salute, and then wheels the table out.
So when they're gone, Dr. Scott's gonna sigh, make herself some coffee, and she's gonna use her powers of possum summoning to bring in a few of her boys and girls.
Okay. If you're just kind of calling them to you, I think that's a fairly standard thing. That doesn't require you to make any actions or anything like that. Let's see. You get. No, there are currently six possums from your usual crew that respond.
Edie, Bankman, Washington, Celine, and Petra, and Dolly.
Okay, I've made note of all of those names. I like that there's a Petey and a Petra. I'm assuming that those two are siblings.
Yeah. Okay. We gotta do a little bit of poking around. You know Forest Park? Of course you know Forest Park. Yeah, I know you do. You've always eaten things from there. Okay.
They look indignant at the accusation, despite the fact that they know it's true.
You're getting a little pudgy there, Petey. You eat too many Twinkies dropped by kids.
He gives you a look that conveys that yes, he's eating a lot of Twinkies, but they're not dropped by the kids. He's probably stealing them from the kids, but he does not outwardly confess to that. It's a strong hunch that that's the case.
I'm gonna draw sort of a crude sort of Bigfooty-like creature. I'm gonna say this is what you're looking for. Any signs of this? Any fur? Any saliva? Any stool samples? You know, from your backside? Anything like that? Teeth? Anything? You bring it straight here to me and I'll check it. But don't get too close. If you see it, just come straight back here and tell me, okay? You got it?
Give me an animal control action. So this will be using willpower as the boost suit. Now, something to keep in mind is that if you don't like any of the cards you've got for the action you're attempting, you can always do what's called a Hail Mary. You just play the top card of the deck, and it's as if you played it from your hand. You can do that a number of times per story equal to your edge, which means you can do it twice.
Okay, well, I've got a willpower card here, don't I?
You've got an Intellect is Black Widow, Warbird is Strength, and then Jubilee and Chimera are both Agility. So the purple ones are willpower.
Okay, let's try a Hail Mary then.
Okay.
Right. That was rubbish.
I mean, it's not quite as good as you could have done with the cards from your hand, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was alright. Okay, that'll do.
Alright, so it's a total of 6. Okay. Alright, they all kind of like nod very excitedly, and kind of like they chitter, kind of bicker with each other for a second, and then they all turn and they scamper off.
They're not the smartest tools in the box, but it's that.
They might not be the smartest, but they are very dedicated to Dr. Scott. So, that makes up for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. So I guess probably just gonna see if I can try and process the DNA I've already got, and maybe make use of it in my genetic amalgamator in some sort of way. But I'm just going to keep doing science stuff until I get any sort of word back at this stage, I think.
Okay. Give me a power duplication action. So it is intellect based, so blue cards are good. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and play your card. Oh, I see you've got the 5 of intellect out, so you'll draw the top card, and we'll see what you get.
9 of Doom.
Ooh, 9 of Doom. Okay, so I'm going to go and draw another Doom card here. It'll come back later, but don't worry about it for now. Go ahead and draw the top card of the deck to replace the one you just played, and you have, I'm going to go ahead and add this to your character sheet as powers, as a power. Man, those intellect cards just keep showing up for you. That's fantastic. Okay.
Or later. When's the deck get shuffled in this?
Basically, once you need to draw from it, it runs out, and it's out. That's when you shuffle. So, In a multiplayer game, the deck you go through the deck a lot faster. Okay, so I've just added. Oh, I misspelled that and didn't add the color to it. So you distill a sample of your serum that will let you change, that gives you the animal form power, which is going to basically give you the ability to turn into a wolf. When you do that, it's going to increase your strength and your agility up to an 11. It'll give you claws and it'll give you teeth, basically natural, as well as enhanced senses. Basically all stuff that's associated with being a wolf. So that one's actually a pretty potent power when you get right down to it.
Hey, maybe we're looking at an old-fashioned sort of werewolf or something. I don't know if I've had any encounters with werewolves in the past, but I've probably encountered sea mutants before, I imagine, in my long and storied history as a genetic analyst.
You've definitely seen wolf DNA and everything like that. As far as whether or not you've run into any werewolves, no, nothing. Not in your character's understanding, at the very least.
What about Dracula's, Frankenstein's, anything like that?
No. For the most part, all of the stuff that Dr. Scott has dealt with has been more on the science side rather than on the supernatural side.
That's just the way I like it. Okay, so yeah, this is useful. I guess I've probably been working quite hard at this point, so maybe I'll get some sleep if I'm not disturbed by anyone calling me or busting in on me or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think she has a mobile phone, but it's like one of those old flip phones from like the mid 2000s or something.
It's like you pay like for a number of minutes up front, and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, while you're kind of like resting and everything, like the sample is finishing up, like what's the term? Is it recombinating? Is that no? What's the word?
Synthesizing?
Yeah, there we go. We'll go with synthesizing. That's a good one. You're kind of resting up. Probably still doing a little bit of like following up on the whole Sasquatch Bigfoot angle. Because it's easy enough for you to do from your computer, just kind of like browsing some of the message boards and stuff like that. So this is a few hours later.
I might save a few screenshots of particularly hilarious paranoid conspiracy freaks that messages I've read.
Okay. Loch Ness Monster is actually a person that can teleport from bodies of water across the world, and that's why nobody ever catches Nessie when they're at Loch Ness. Blah blah blah.
It says that Donald Trump's actually a shaved Yeti. Well, I could believe it.
He certainly has the general mannerisms. So yeah, while you're kind of like relaxing, waiting for that to finish doing its thing, a couple of your raccoon scouts come back, and they're very panicked. Specifically, Dolly and Petey. Dolly comes in first, like very clearly. If not immediately before this, Dolly set out with the intention of, I am being chased by something that is going to eat me and I need to get away. She had the wherewithal to come back here. And a moment or two later, Petey comes in through the door, but he is under a lot less stress. And he has a a Twinkie still in its wrapper in his hands. He kind of comes walking in, looking like, what's going on? Did I miss something?
Petey, do you even remember what I told you to do?
He kind of like looks at the Twinkie, looks at you, and nods, and he holds up the Twinkie, and like with one hand, and he makes a motion like he's stealing it with his other hand, and then he gestures to the Twinkie like, yeah, I did exactly what you told me to do.
Okay, I'll split it with you, sweetie.
Clearly, he got his recounting of stealing Twinkies and your instructions confused, and so here we are.
I'll give him half the Twinkie and eat the rest myself thoughtfully while I try and calm down Dolly.
Okay. Dolly very frantically kind of pantomimes she raises up on her back legs and makes herself as big as she possibly can, and then bares her teeth and she gnashes her teeth at you and everything like that. And then she gets down on all fours and she raises her head, and she's got the same kind of body language and posture of a wolf that's howling, but obviously she can't howl, so she kind of does that posture and then does a weird kind of hissing noise instead. And then she kind of just flops down on her side and is just breathing really heavily.
Oh, you don't say? Oh. I feel guilty now. You deserve this more than me, sweetie. I hand over the rest of the Twinkie.
She gratefully devours it.
Now, not right now, but you think you can take me back to where you saw it? Yeah?
Galvanized by the sugar content, she hops up onto her feet and she kind of nods and runs to the door and runs back to you and runs to the door.
Okay, I guess we're going now then. I grab my coat, probably as well as my lab coat. I've probably got a big outdoory trench coat that I sometimes wear, and a big hat to kind of cover my face so that if I'm wandering above ground I don't get spotted by people who might freak out at me.
It kind of reminds me of the was it the early 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, the live action one, where Raphael is wearing the fedora and the trench coat, but he's otherwise just big green turtle head, just walking around New York City.
I think it's like that, except it's more of a sort of a gothy girls sort of summer hat thing, a big black sort of summer hat type there.
I love that. It's kind of one of those elegant summer hats that someone would wear a really nice sundress going out for a picnic or whatever, but instead it's a big heavy coat and a possum lady underneath.
Exactly.
Perfect. Petey remains behind.
Okay, don't cause any mischief while I'm gone, Petey. You leave those samples alone. You don't want to end up with burping green bubbles and floating to the ceiling like last time.
Does Petey...
You know what I'm talking about.
Are you sure Petey doesn't want that? Because that sounds to me like the kind of thing Petey would want. But
sure that any samples are well out of reach, so I think would be dangerous to him anyway before I go out.
Okay. So as you're getting ready to leave, the sequencer does beep, at which point Petey hops up and grabs the the vial out of it and comes back over to you kind of waddling on his back feet, and he holds it up to you.
Good boy. Take it. Give him a little kiss on his snoot.
He rubs his face as if he's how dare you? But secretly you're pretty sure he's happy with that. And then Dolly leads you out into the tunnels and off towards Forest Park.
Okay, cool.
How are you going to approach the park itself? Are you going to be kind of sneaky, stealthy, or are you going to...
Is it pretty late night now?
Let's see. Yeah, I'd say it probably was. Because you spent a few hours kind of doing the research and fixing up oxen and everything like that. So yeah, we'll say it's dark.
What time of year is it?
This time of year, so summer.
Okay, cool. In that case, I'm just gonna sort of trying to glance around when I come out of the tunnels or the sewers or wherever I've been, and make sure there's no one like immediately looking in my direction. And I'm just gonna cross nonchalantly over into the park, follow Dolly wherever she leads me. I'm not gonna be overly stealthy at this point, but like, if I notice Dolly kind of getting cautious and like she smelt something or heard something, then I'll go into stealth mode.
Okay. Yeah, she's leading you along, and seems more or less fine. But then, after a few minutes, she kind of like stops. She looks around. She rises up on her back feet and kind of like you see her nose working, and then she kind of like drops down and hunches and moves very slowly and kind of like scampers up the trunk of one of the trees.
Okay, can I go after her, I guess?
Yeah, you've got the prehensile tail, so I'm gonna say that you are able to easily enough like wrap the tail around a sturdy limb and kind of like lift yourself up with it and then kind of climb the rest of the way. That prehensile tail is really helpful for that kind of thing. Give me, if you wouldn't mind, give me an agility action, please. This would be based on the thievery skill, which I don't believe you have.
Okay.
To just to see how stealthy you are.
Okay, I will. I'm not going to use the best card I've got of agility for now, but
okay.
Just throw that one out there.
All right. So yeah, that's going to give you a boost. So you'll draw the top card of the deck and add that to it.
6.
Okay, so 9, and your agility of 5 is 14. And let's do a quick. Oh, well, that's okay. Yeah, you climb the. You kind of scamper up into the tree behind Dolly, being as kind of quiet as you can manage, and you hear a rustle sound, like it's something fairly large that is moving not too far away. And from the sound of it, it doesn't sound like it was moving before. It sounds like it was basically sitting still, almost like it was like stalking or like waiting. And then all of a sudden it kind of moves, and you see it move into view kind of beneath you. And it is a well, you're out in the park at night. You don't have like enhanced senses in normal form, so
I don't think so, but maybe I've not together some sort of night vision gadgetry with my gadgetry.
You know what? Sure. If you want to, I'm happy to kind of roll back just a tiny bit because you knew you were going out at night. Give me an agility action because gadgetry is an agility thing. And it doesn't have to be an agility card to play, by the way. You can play any card in conjunction with any action. Just agility.
Really?
Yep.
It's better if it's agility.
Yeah, you just get the extra boost card play out of it. So. This isn't particularly difficult because you're basically just kind of giving yourself at relatively low level enhanced senses for night vision, so this is not going to be a terribly difficult thing.
That strength card then.
Okay, let's see. You have enhanced senses with infravision, so that's intensity 4. So it's probably not going to come in too useful, and it's probably going to break if combat breaks out because. These things are notoriously fragile, but it's useful in the moment. So yeah, you got your little cobbled together goggles on, and you see this figure kind of slowly sort of. It's almost like it's dragging itself because it reaches one big clawed arm out through the bushes first, and then it's almost like it pulls itself out of the bushes, and then the other arm comes out. It is walking on all fours, but it's a very kind of exaggerated, unnatural looking stance. And it is indeed a very large, like Wolfman-esque creature, almost right out of like more modern werewolf movies. Much closer to like the Lycans from Underworld than like the traditional Wolfman from the Wolfman back in the day. He kind of sniffs, and his head kind of swivels back and forth, and his ears kind of do the little radar dish thing, and then it stops and kind of like slowly looks up, like kind of following the trail Dolly took up the trunk of the tree, until it looks and locks eyes right on you.
Okay. I guess.
So, we're going to go ahead and jump into combat.
Oh, shit.
So the way it works is whoever has the lowest intellect is going to declare their action first, and then the person with the next highest intellect is going to declare. Once that's done, we resolve all the actions, we do all the scores, and then at the end is when everything actually happens.
Okay.
So I'm going to start off by drawing a narrator card. This is going to be the card that adds to the opposition that you have to deal with. So it is a 2, which is actually good for you because it's a low number. The aura is going to be important on subsequent turns, so if you've taken damage, which you're going to take by discarding cards when something hits you, on a positive aura, you draw a card back. On a negative aura, the bad guy heals.
Okay. Can you remind me how edge works again?
Sure. So your edge is basically, you're going to look at any of the cards in your hand that are the value is equal to or less than your edge. You can play those cards in addition to your normal card play.
Ah, okay.
So you don't have any edge cards at the moment, but if you were to draw a 2 or a 1, you could play that and then still play a normal card afterwards.
Right.
Just to get a little bit more value out of those low cards.
Like it.
Okay, so this guy is going to... yeah, he's definitely the lower intellect. So this guy is going to kind of leap upwards and try to like knock you off the branch to bring you down to like ground level. Is his plan. What would you like to do with your action this turn?
Can I maybe try and leap to another tree?
Sure. So leaping is typically going to be a strength action.
Swing using my prehensile tail and link myself to another tree.
Sure. You know what? And I'll allow this to be an agility action with your based on your escape artistry skill as well. So yeah, you can do that. That's going to be your defensive action. What offensive action would you like to take, if any?
Okay.
Yep.
If it gets within any sort of range of me, can I try and inject it with some nullification goop?
Absolutely. So give me... We'll start off by resolving your active action first. So it does mean you kind of have to let it get close to you, but assuming that is...
Yeah, I imagine I'll wait for it to reach up, and then I'm gonna kind of like swing away at the last minute, like. And instantly,
Okay.
I imagine my possum buddies, like if they're around me, they have a tendency to just hang on to my back like baby possums do.
Okay.
Possum.
So Dolly is currently like underneath your coat, like latched onto the inside of your jacket. Okay.
Safe.
I like that. All right, so what we're gonna do is, this would be more complicated, except for the fact that the event here is target of opportunity. So since you need this guy to be close in order for you to inject him, and he's trying to get close to you, we're just gonna say that part works, no problem. So I'm going to need an intellect action for your nullification to see whether or not you're able to overcome his power intensities. All right, and this is going to be... What is this resisted by? His, if I remember correctly. Ooh, another Doom card. I like that. So specifically, what are you trying to nullify? Are you trying to nullify his, like, animal form?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. That is smart. So that's going to give you... So I want to put the narrator card over here for now. We're going to leave your card play there for the moment. And then I'm going to need you to... Before you redraw any cards, I'm going to also need you to give me that agility action to avoid his attack. Yep. Okay. So that's going to be 5. That's a 10 total with escape artistry, so that's probably good. Whether or not it's good enough is the question. So that's going to be 15, 17, ouch. Okay, so that will not be sufficient to escape his claws the first time around. But what was your total on the nullification? Was wow, a 20. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he leaps up, and your tail kind of like whips up to grab a branch above you. And the branch that it grabs onto is not quite sturdy enough to hold your weight, so it kind of snaps as you go to pull yourself away. So he slashes you, and he's going to do a total of 17 points of damage minus your strength score. And do you have any other applicable defenses? No. Okay, so you're going to draw 2 cards back at the end of your turn to replace the ones that you played this turn. Oh, I'm going to draw the card for that Doom card you played. I'm going to discard both of these. So once you draw your 2 cards back and you've got a full hand of 4, you're going to have 17 points of damage minus your strength. Your strength is a 4, which means you've got 13 points of damage that left over that you have to make up for. So 13 points worth of cards will be necessary to stay conscious.
2. One as well.
Now you can discard the 1, or you could discard the 3 to get the Doom card out of your hand. Because when you discard Doom cards for wounds, I don't get any benefit out of that.
Okay, cool. Okay. That then.
All right. So that leaves you with 1 card at the end of the round. That's going to discard. And so he leaps up. One of his hands, he claws into the tree to sort of stay up there. He slashes you, kind of slashes through your coat. There's feathers or stuffing or whatever. Kind of there's a puff of that comes out of your coat with blood, and it hurts a lot. But then, because he's right there, you jab the little injector into his forearm, and
that bastard.
And almost immediately, he kind of slides a little bit, and then his body turns back into normal human form, and so he doesn't have claws to hold onto the tree anymore, and he falls back and hits the ground fairly hard on his back, and kind of just lays there for a minute, looking a little bit dazed.
Okay. Did I fall all the way to the ground, or was I able to...
You're still up in the tree. We're going to go ahead and draw the next card. And it's a positive card, so you get to draw a card back to heal. All right.
Bigotry.
And he's laying there looking very very confused and kind of dazed. He's just there on his back. His arms are kind of on the ground next to him, and he's just clearly trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Do I get a good look at what he looks like?
You do. He is wearing he's wearing those like Under Armour like boxer briefs basically, and that's it. I would say he is what someone might call in extremely good shape. He's a relatively decent looking guy. Oh, sorry, one sec. He is. Yeah. He looks like he's Caucasian. Might have a little bit of like mixed ancestry. His complexion is a little bit on the darker side. His haircut is reminiscent of like a military style haircut.
Like a crew cut.
Yeah, it's not quite that short. It looks like maybe a military style haircut that's grown out a little bit. But yeah, he looks mostly naked, relatively attractive, buff guy.
Yeah. How long do I generally have when I've nullified someone's power?
So the nullification is... Okay, so it lasts for an aura duration. So if I draw another negative card as the narrator card, then his power would come back.
Okay.
It comes back the turn after that aura card comes up. But for now, he seems like he's kind of trying to figure out what's happening.
Can I whip out my state-of-the-art camera phone and take a photo of him?
Sure. It's nighttime, so I'm assuming the flash.
Yeah.
The flash goes off. He kind of winces and like turns his head and kind of covers his eyes.
Smile for the camera, boy.
He says, "What the hell is? What? Where am I?"
You okay down there?
He says, I would be a lot better if I knew what was happening." And he kind of starts to sit up. He doesn't like try to climb to his feet. He sits up and kind of like rests his elbows on his knees, and he's kind of like trying to just collect himself.
Okay. You don't know where you are? What's your name?
Warwick. Warwick Lupin.
Of course, this is Warwick. Okay.
He kind of like is looking up at you because it's dark and he's no longer in like whatever alternate form he had. So it seems like he's having a hard time like really seeing you. He says he kind of is like leaning to the side a little bit and kind of trying to get a better look at you through the dim like kind of tree cover. He says, "What's your name?"
My name's Heather, but you can call me Dr. Scott. I'm
All right.
gonna come down now. I don't want you to freak out. You promise me you're not gonna turn into a big wolf thing?
He says, "If I could promise that, I wouldn't be here, but I'll do my best."
Okay.
Wherever here is. Actually, I'm
Come
guessing based on your accent, we're in Boston? He seems really utterly confused by that.
No, I'm a bit of a fish out of water. Always have been. This is Portland.
We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna set aside the card, the narrator card, and you can draw your 2 cards back. We're gonna count this as the combat being over for the moment. And he says, "Portland," and that confusion seems to seems overshadowed when you descend from the tree. And
Now, don't freak out.
he definitely kind of like goes very still while he tries to process what has presented itself to him, and he says, "You're a possum."
I'm part possum.
Uh,
I'm mostly human. I just had a little accident. Don't hold it against me.
No, look, I thought that the whole turning into a wolf thing was a raw deal, but,
Yeah, well, at least you get it turned back.
you're not wrong.
But you don't seem to have any control over it.
Not as much as I would like, no.
Cold?
Say again?
You cold?
No, actually, surprisingly, this is one of the benefits of my situation, I guess.
Accelerated metabolism. Interesting. Okay, you want some help?
Right now, I would love some pants, but I'm getting the feeling that you probably don't have any that would fit
Yeah,
me.
I
So
don't really bother with pants anymore. I kind of gave up on that. I can get you something though. Hang on, let me call my boys. I'm, I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call Cardinal because she's the most level-headed of them all.
okay. I thought you were talking about your possums, and I was just imagining Petey like running through the woods with someone chasing him, like he's got someone's pants like trailing behind him.
No, I don't need the risk of any heat strikes now, so I'm not going to rely on the possums for this one.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I do like the image.
I imagine like he's running, the person's keys like fall out of the pockets, and anyways, yeah. Cardinal answers and says, "I'll be right there." Is that it? Just pants?
Want anything else? Coffee, maybe.
It's like a coffee sounds great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Pick up a nice latte or something.
It takes her a second to figure out what you just said, but she goes, "Oh yeah, a latte, of course." And then she hangs up. And you'll kind of like, I imagine, be walking back towards like the parking lot for this part of the park to meet up with her.
I kind of apologize to the guy. I'm like, I give you my coat, but we don't want to cause any panic.
It's like, yeah, no, sorry about your coat, by the way. He kind of gestures at like the slash marks through it.
I got it out of dumpster anyway.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, I guess.
Exactly.
So you're a doctor, you said.
Yeah, I might actually be just the best sort of person you could have encountered right now with your little condition.
Well, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, because quite frankly, I haven't been able to do anything to deal with it. So.
Remember where you were before you woke up here?
Yeah, I was in Eastern Germany. My unit was deployed out there for, well, it's classified, but...
Okay, so you're a military man.
Yeah,
Special forces?
yeah, you could say that.
Inverted commas, special forces.
Says, what's the date?
Date, it's 17th of July, 2023. You're not gonna tell me you're a time traveler or something now?
No, not... Except in the conventional sense. It's been about 6 weeks since...
Ah, jeez, yeah.
Huh.
You don't happen to know what it is that triggered you before you wolfed out, I guess? Is that how you say it? I don't know.
Says, well, actually, it was something that I thought I had under control. I was wounded a while back, pretty severely, and a local kind of pulled me back from the brink, but did so with well, I guess you'd call them questionable methods. Resulted in me being who I am now.
Yeah, recombinant DNA technology. I gotta say, I've experimented with that stuff before, as you might have guessed, given my current appearance.
He's kind of quiet for a second and says, those are some pretty big words that I don't know I fully understand.
That's okay, sweetie. You just stand there and look pretty.
He says the guy that saved my life didn't have anything like that. He had some wolf skulls and symbols painted in blood and things like that. It was decidedly less scientific, from what I gather.
Drum circle, laboratory. It's all the same stuff, really. Don't let anyone, don't tell anyone that I said that. We scientists, we get very particular about our methodology.
He's like, yeah, soldiers too, so I can respect that. Anyway, for a while there, the guy had me, well, lack of a better word, no pun intended, on a leash. He would sick me on someone he didn't like and then call me back. Managed to get away from him, or so I thought, but I don't know. Something about this is really familiar.
You think maybe he found out where you were?
Probably.
Oh.
So obviously, cliche though it be, the moon does have some say on me wolfing out, I think as you called it. But this was different. It was the middle of the day last time. The last thing I remember, and I've never changed it during the day before, unless I wanted to.
That is unusual. Nothing, you didn't see anything or smell anything beforehand that you can remember?
Unfortunately, the nose becomes normal human nose when I'm not in wolf form. So.
Okay, I'm just looking at what the vector could have been for this. There must have been something that caused it. Of course, if this witch doctor person is dealing in magic, that's it's not exactly my bag. I might not know what to do. I probably know someone who does. I need to look in my file of facts.
It's like, yeah, whatever you need to do. All I have to say is, it's not like I could have booked myself a flight out here in the condition I was in, so whoever brought me here, they're here for something. Just gotta figure out what.
Me and my friends, we're gonna help you get to the bottom of this. I think it's pretty interesting. We've not had a case like this for a while. Normally I'm just patching them up from the various scrapes they get into. Anyway, here comes one of them now.
Yeah, Cardinal comes kind of swooping in, and she's got a, let's see, it's this late at night, I imagine. Yeah, she's got like a Walmart bag with, some discount jeans, or not jeans, like discount like sweatpants, because she doesn't know what size this guy is. As well as a t-shirt, because she figured why not, and a latte from some all-night coffee place that is, they're okay. Like there are better places, but this place is open 24 hours, so you can't really compete with that. It's a lot colder than it probably should be because she was flying, but he doesn't seem to mind.
You're a sweetie, Cardinal. This is Warwick, right? Warwick, is that right?
She doesn't come close to him. She like puts the stuff down on the ground and kind of like takes a step back.
It's okay. I think he's safe for now.
She looks at the gashes in your coat and she says, "Yeah, I can see that."
That was before I gave him a little bit of the juice. You know? Just, yeah. Let's not do anything alarming or sudden. No roller coasters for you.
She says, well, if you need anything else, let me know. I need to go check on Oxen again." And as she says that, she gives Warwick like this like daggers look, and then she takes flight and she flies off before you can say anything else.
Yeah, you might have a bridge to build there. You kinda, I know it wasn't your fault, but you kinda took down one of her friends. I had to patch him up. It wasn't pretty.
She says,
"Don't worry, he'll be all right."
He kind of thinks about that for a second and says, "If he survived, he must be a pretty tough cookie."
Oh yeah, he ain't the smartest tool in the box, but he's a toughie. I can't really offer you much, but I have a place you can crash if you want.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Some sleep, and he kind of like looks up and says, "And to be somewhere where the moon isn't going to shine on me once whatever you did to me wears off." He kind of like looks at the spot in his arm where you injected it, and it's a little bit like swollen, kind of like puffy red.
Don't worry, it's not FDA approved, but I've tried it out hundreds of times, and it's never caused a fatal reaction.
Like, well, that's comforting, I guess.
Anyway, yeah, where we're going, the sun don't shine, nor does the moon. I lift up a sewer grate.
All right, I think let's go ahead and let's pause here.